Welcome back. Today we're going to be working on graphing square root functions. So we're going to be dealing with a new pattern today. So first, let's go ahead and remember what it means to be a parent function. And a parent function is a common function no shifts or reflections. So remember what that means is my vertex is always at 0, 0. So I don't move left or right at all or up or down. We first started with a quadratic pattern. So x of x is equal to just x squared. We then moved on to absolute values. We got my V-shaped graph. That's the absolute value of x. And now today we're going to be dealing with the square root. So it's f of x is equal to the square root of x. So let's go ahead and talk about our pattern. This pattern is called an eyebrow. Okay? The pattern is first off 0, 0. I go right one, up one. Because the square root of 1 is 1. If you think, do you want to take the square root of 2, put the square root of 2 in our calculator. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So when I put the square root of 2 in my calculator, I get a decimal. We don't normally want to plot decimal, so let's see if the square root of 3 is a decimal. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and go to 4, which is a whole number. So we're actually going to jump all the way to 4 because the square root of 4 is 2. And my pattern for the eyebrow is right one, up one. Return to, now this is called an initial point because there's nothing coming from the left, so it cannot be called a vertex. And my next part of my pattern is right 4, up 2. All right, let's go ahead and compare this transform function to the original. So the first thing you should notice is there's a negative on the left side. So if there's a negative, there's going to be a reflection over the x. Okay. From the origin, I move left 2. Have any similarities? And then from the origin, I move up 1. So anything under the square root is going to tell me my horizontal, so left or right movement. And remember, that's always going to be opposite. And the plus 1, the number outside of the square root, will give me my vertical shift. If there's a negative in front of the square root, that will tell me any vertical flips. So if A is equal to 1, it's a vertical flip. There's a reflection. So it's going to be an upside down eyebrow. This K is going to tell me my horizontal. My horizontal is the opposite side. So that's left to right. It's always opposite. Now K is that's going to move my eyebrow up or down, and it's the same sign. So very similar to absolute values and or quadratic. And again, the initial point is going to be h half k. Now, if you notice, there's not going to be arrows on both sides because there's nothing coming from this, the left-hand side. My square root always goes to the right. So that's going to affect our domain because remember I always ask myself, do I have arrows on both sides? And the answer is no, not anymore. So it's, again, it's only going to the right. All right, let's go ahead and describe any shifts and reflections. So, first, number 1, do you have a reflection? The answer is no. If you did, there'd be a negative sign in front. Okay, the horizontal, that's the plus 5. Remember, plus 5 means to the left 5. And the minus 2, same sign, that means the initial point. Remember, we're not calling it a vertex anymore because I don't have two sides coming into one point. It's just starting at the initial point and moving to the right. The initial point is -5, -2. So to graph this, I would graph my initial point, and then I would graph using my. Number two, if you notice there is a negative sign in front, so there is going to be a reflection, so it's going to be an upside down eyebrow. So it start at the initial and go down. This -1 tells my horizontal shift. Remember, -1 means to the right one. And this +8 means up 8. So putting it all together, my initial point is 1, comma, 8. To get to 1, I go right 1, up 8. And it's where my horizontal and vertical shift. And see if there's a negative sign. So you know it's going to have a reflection. So then I start at my initial point and I go down to the right. We're going up to the right or down to the right. We're always going to the right. But notice there's not a number under the square root, so there's not any horizontal shift. I don't move left or right at all. There's just a number outside the square root, which means it's up 6. Since I don't move left or right at all, my initial point is 0, and I go up 6, so it's 0, comma 6. All right, let's go ahead and put all of that and graph on the pattern. Okay. So again, we're going to start the same. Do you have a reflection? And the answer is no, because there's no negative sign in front of the square. So +3 means up 3. The vertical means down 4, because there's a -4 outside. So my initial point is left 3, so -3, down 4, -4. Now we'll see what the domain range actually does, just like usual. So I'm going to first graph my initial point. That's left 3, down 4. Now, my pattern is going to be, again, it's always to the right. Always to the right. So since I go right 1, and I'm going to go up 1 because there's no reflection. Return back to the initial point. Do you remember the next part? Remember, we have to go all the way to 4 because the square root of 4 is 2. So I'm going to go right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. Now, it's really important that you watch carefully as I graph this. I start at the initial point, and then I make my eyebrow, and I just have arrows on one side. It's very important that you do not keep extending the line past the initial point. The initial means starting. So it starts at -3, -4, right here, and it goes to the right with an arrow. Now we have to talk about the domain. Okay, so the initial point, the x-coordinate is -3, and the y is -4. So since I do not have arrows on both sides, my domain is not going to be all real numbers. Okay? And since my arrow is only going to the right, I'm going to be dealing with, and it's included, so it's a closed circle, so it'll be greater than or equal to, notice the arrow going to the right, and it's going to be greater than or equal to -3, because that's my x-coordinate. Now range, pretty similar. Okay? I went right 1, up 1. Right 4, up 2. Since I'm constantly going up, it's going to be greater than or equal to, and it's that y coordinate, which is -4. This is the only function that you'll be graphing that the domain is not going to be all real numbers. And the only reason why is because there are not arrows on both sides. So last is f of 1. F of 1 is right here, -2. All right, let's go ahead and try number 5. Notice number 5, there's a negative sign. So there is going to be a reflection. So this is going to then be an eyebrow graph. I'm going to start at the initial point instead of going right 1, up 1. I'm going to go right 1, down 1. So upside down eyebrow. This -6 is the horizontal to the right 6. This +4 is the vertical, means it's 4. So my initial point is right 6, so 6 up 4, which is 6, comma 4. So I'm going to first start plotting 6, comma 4. Now, since there's a reflection, I'm going to go right 1. Instead of up, I'm going to go down 1. Go back to the initial point. Now I'm going to go right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, again down 2. Again, it's very important that you graph the eyebrow exactly the same. We start at the initial point, and we have arrows just on the right, and it's going down. It's very, very important that you do not extend your curve past the initial point. no mark off for that, but I'm erasing that right now. So, did you read? Now, since, look, I only have arrows on the right, and my arrow is facing to the right, it's going to be greater and it's a close circle, so it's greater than or equal to x coordinate, which is 6. Now, look at my range. I go right 1, down 1, right 4, down 2. So since I'm going down, it's going to be less than or equal to y coordinate of the initial, which is 4. All right, and lastly, f of 7 is 1, 2, right there, which is 3. All right, let's go ahead and go through number 6. Okay, so the first thing I noticed is no negative sign in front of the square root, so there's not going to be a reflection. So this is going to be an eyebrow going up again. The horizontal shift is the number under the square root, so that is, since it's plus 4, that means it's 4. Notice there's not a number on the outside, so there's no vertical shift, so none. I don't move up or down now. So if I just move left 4, that's negative 4, y 0, since I don't move up at all. If x is a negative 4, y is 0. Let's go ahead and graph negative 4, 0, which is right here, and then I'm going to continue graphing my pattern. Remember, my pattern is right 1. Since there's no reflection, I'm going to go up 1. Return to the initial. Again, it's always to the right. Always to the right. And I'm going to go right 4, up 2. Again, you're going to start at that initial point, negative 4, 0, and draw your eyebrow at it. And it's very, very important. I know I keep saying this, but you do not extend your curve past that initial point like what I did in purple. Always start at the initial, and move to the right. So my name has not to be all real numbers because look, I don't have arrows on both sides. My arrow is facing to the right. This is greater than or equal to, because it's a closed circle, negative 4. That's the x coordinate. And my range, notice I'm going right 1, up 1, right 4, up 2. Going up, it's going to be greater than or equal to that y coordinate, which is 0. All right, and finally, what is up with 0? It's 1, 2. All right, so hopefully you're getting a hang of this pattern. What I'm going to do is we're going to finish up at 7, and I'm going to try your homework. All right, so 7. First thing I notice, I see an X. So I know there's going to be a reflection. So I'm going to start at my initial point, and I'm going to go down in my pattern instead of up. But if you notice, there's not a number under the square root. And there's no number under the square root. There's no horizontal shift, so 9. But there is a negative 6 outside, that means it's down 6. At my initial point, I don't move left or right at all, so that's 0. That moves down 6, which is negative 6. I'm going to go here, down 6. Now remember, there's a reflection. So I'm going to go right 1, down 1. That's the biggest mistake, is people always forget that there's a reflection. So you need to go down. That's what's a good point of sketching what the graphic does like before. So return to the initial. Now you're going to go right 4, down 2. Then we're going to start at that initial point, 0, negative 6, and move to the. Again, my domain is not going to be all real numbers because I do not have arrows on both sides. There's nothing coming from the left. So since the arrow is only facing to the right, this right here, it's going to be x is greater than, and it's going to be or equal to, because it's a closed circle, at x coordinate, which is 0. Now my range, since I'm going down, remember, I'm going right 1, down 1, right 4, down 2. It's going to be less than or equal to whatever that y coordinate is, which is negative 6. And lastly, what is f of 4? It's negative 5, 6, 7, negative 8. All right, please go ahead and stop the video to complete your homework.